Hello, and welcome to Kloeker's Education Foundation, where we provide quality content for amazing teachers and students. This is our World Geography series, and today's lesson is the themes of geography. Now, what is geography? Geography comes from the Greek word geographia, which means to describe the earth. Geo being the prefix earth, graphia to describe, and geographers use the study of space on Earth and the interactions that take place there to explain how the physical and human features on Earth interact. Now, there are different methods of geography. Geographers use maps to understand the visual representation of a spot on Earth. Okay, books, atlases, maps. We use GPS. If you have it on your phone or on a device, many cars come with it pre-programmed now. That is still using geography and data that they've collected, organizing them into charts and graphs to help you understand the patterns of a place and how things change. Now, there are 5 themes of geography: location, where is it? Place, what is it like? Region, how places are similar or different? Human-environment interaction, how do people relate to the physical world? And movement, how do people, goods, and ideas travel from one location to another? Is location. Where is it? Now, there are 2 types of location. There's absolute location, which is the exact place on Earth where that geographic feature is located, such as coordinates, or saying, oh, New York City, Pikes Peak, Hilltop number 100 if you're in a state park, Lake Travis. And then a relative location, which is to describe a place in comparison to the places surrounding it. You know, when your grandpa or grandma says, go down the road past Walmart and take the left 2 blocks after the post office. Okay, that is relative location. Now, geographers describe absolute location, okay, and we start breaking up and categorizing it into their location on the hemisphere, where we divide the Earth into 2 equal halves. And we can do that into the northern hemisphere, where we divide the top and the bottom off the equator, and then the prime meridian, which will just divide the Earth between the east and western hemisphere off of that line. Now, as you can see on this map on the screen, the equator is a line that runs through the Earth horizontally that divides the Earth into a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. You see that in the left 2 maps. The prime meridian, which is a line that runs through the North Pole to the South Pole, that's going to divide the Earth into 2 hemispheres, the western and the eastern hemisphere. You see that on the right side of the map. Now, in relation to dividing the Earth, where something is in absolute location, going north or south, we have lines that run through the Earth. These are, of course, imaginary lines known as latitude and longitude. Latitude running horizontal east to west. Okay, the equator is a line of latitude, and longitude, which run north to south through the poles, and these, of course, separate things east to west. Prime meridian being 0 degrees east or west, and the equator being 0 degrees north or south. So, how do you find a location? Using these lines, we can get these objects called coordinates, which will tell you where you are exactly on Earth in relation to everything else, because you could say, I am at 38 degrees latitude or 38 degrees north and 45 degrees west, and that's going to put you as a specific spot on the Earth as if it's a map or a sheet of graph paper in your geometry class. Now, our second type of geography is place. What is it like? Describing the physical and the cultural characteristics of a place. Describing things like climate, landform, the vegetation. That also includes how humans have interacted with that place. Okay, it has lots of trees, it has lots of buildings. That is you describing what that place is like. Our third is region. Now this is comparing how places are similar and or different from each other. Usually regions have one or more characteristics that unify them. It might be physically, politically, culturally, economically. The Sun Belt is a region in the United States. That's the Southeast region. You have the Rust Belt, which is economically all of those manufacturings in the Northeast. That is a region in the United States. There are several regions around the world, and there's different ways that we classify them. The first is a formal region. Okay, formal regions have limited numbers of characteristics. Generally, we're going to quote classify them as a formal region. Continents are a formal regions. They geographically share one feature, whether it's on the same tectonic plate or what have you. And these are, of course, a list of regions that we're going to study in this World Geography series: the US and Canada, Latin America, Europe, Russia, Africa, Southwest Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania and Australia. Those are all formal regions. Functional regions, these are set based off of a connection between places, usually classified or characterized by a hub. So for example, you have a downtown in a city, and then the places outside of it, the suburbs, they are built in relation to that city. Austin has many suburbs: Round Rock, Pflugerville. Okay, going south, you are getting close to Buda, Kyle. It's growing, and you have suburbs that have developed. That's a functional region. And if someone says Austin, very few people are talking about Austin proper. Same thing for Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. When you say, "Oh, where are you from?" and someone says Houston, very few people generally mean Houston proper, downtown Houston. Most are from a suburb outside the city. And last is perceptual regions. These are ways that we perceive the region. It is different. There is no formal classification behind each of these regions. Okay, so for example, you see this map. We have the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Southeast. Some people would classify Ohio as part of the Northeast. Some people are going to say it's the Midwest. Some people will say the Midwest only begins in Iowa and Missouri. It's perceptual. Things change from person to person. Right? Our fourth type of geography is, of course, human-environment interaction, how people relate to the physical world, how our interactions change and alter the environment for the better or the worse, how do they adapt and overcome the environment to live, and of course, there are things we can't change. Example, draining swamps to build or building dams, irrigation. These are all changes that occur because of the human environment interaction. And we have movement. Last but not least, movement. How people, ideas, and products move from one place to another. Okay, they have linear distance, which is how far something physically is, and you have time distance, how long it takes someone to get there. Now, most people in the United States will tell you how to get somewhere, and they're using time distance. Oh, how far away is Austin from San Antonio? Oh, it's about an hour, hour and a half. Very few people are going to say, oh, it's about 80 miles. Okay, if you're in a major city like Houston and you're trying to travel from one side to the other, you can say, oh, it's 2-3 hours to get from point A to point B, but the mileage, because of congestion and traffic, is going to be much less, right? Which is why you see on your GPS when you try to travel somewhere, if you put it in a phone, it might say, oh, to go 60 miles will take you 45 minutes. We might have great infrastructure, speeds, travel, congestion, all this. Or you might say, oh, this is 5 miles away, but it's going to take me 20 minutes to get there. Right? Time travel and time distance and linear distance, not time travel, those are, of course, don't necessarily relate. And then, of course, psychological difference, distance. When we are young, everything seems so far away. And as we get older and we travel more and more, things become a lot closer. As an adult, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, they don't seem so far away from each other. As a kid, it's traveling to a whole new world. Now, we're going to kind of dive into a subsect of this that relates to themes of geography, and that is types of maps. Since we're talking about location and where things are, it's a great time to dive into this. Now, maps and globes, these are tools that geographers use to describe the data that they have collected. And of course, the oldest map that we have is from an ancient Babylonian city, and it shows where farms are laid out, what they're growing, and how far away they are from the urban center. It's not a global map. Now, a globe is a three-dimensional map. Okay, it has height, width, and depth to it. It is the most accurate way to show how large something is in comparison. If we're talking about size of countries or continents or planets, okay, globes are the best things we have. The issue that globes present is that A, they're not very portable. Most people do not want a globe in the lap of their passenger when they're trying to drive to navigate and you have to spin the globe. It's very difficult. Furthermore, you can only see half of it at any given time because the other half is facing away from you. Now, maps, they are the same visual representation of data, but it's in a 2D, right? It's just a flat piece of paper in front of you. It is height and width. You can see all the information presented in front of you. You can scale it to how big or how small it's needed. However, it often distorts how large things are because it doesn't show that curvature of the earth. Now, people who make maps, they are known as cartographers, a map maker. And these map projections are a way of trying to show the Earth's surface that reduces distortions that we would see on a flat piece of paper. And so we're going to talk about a couple of those here in just a few moments. Now, two types of map, physical maps, they are going to show the features. They're going to show the rivers, the mountains, the lakes, the deserts. And we have political maps, which are probably what you see in a lot of your history classes. They are showing cities, states, boundary lines of the nations and their borders. Generally, that's what we see when we look at a map in a classroom. Now, there are thematic maps. You see two examples right here on your screen. Okay, on the left, you have a map of unemployment, thematically showing which counties in the United States have the highest unemployment rate or where their unemployment rate is in relation to the others. And on the right side of the map, you see temperatures, right? How hot, how cold regions are. And of course, this is all in relation to each other. Now, on a map, there are different parts of the map. You have a title of the map. You see this map of Texas in front of you in the top left-hand corner. You see the title of the map. That is Texas. It might be a different map in your classroom. We have this known as a legend or a key, right? That is on the bottom right. This shows you what is portrayed on the map. Okay, highways, cities, states, towns, all of this. And of course, it will also generally be close to the scale. You see the scale just to the right of that, where it shows how far on this representation is 50 miles or 100 miles or 100 kilometers. And then generally on your map, you're going to have a compass. On this map, it's in the top right-hand corner. and this will show you which way is north, east, south, and west. Now, when we're talking about different map projections, we have some that are not quite used, very common. One being a planar map, which you see on the left-hand side, right? This shows just kind of as if you're looking at a globe, what you would see. This is from a top-down perspective from the North Pole. But as you can see, you don't get to view Latin America or parts of Africa and Australia because it would be on the other side of the map. You have a conical projection, which is on the bottom right, based off of trying to take a map and putting it in the shape of a cone to reduce distortions. Of map projections that you see, we have the Robinson projection on the top left. This is probably the most second common type of maps we see. Again, showing the Earth, however, it's not a perfect rectangle. Again, we're trying to limit distortions. And then, of course, you have the good projection, which is that bottom right. It's fairly uncommon, but again, taking a globe and carving it so that you could lay it out flat across a table, you see there's chunks of it that would be connecting on a globe or even connecting on the Robinson projection, but they are not shown that way because they're just physically carving a globe out and laying it flat across a table. Now, this is probably one of your more common maps that you're going to see, right? A Mercator projection. This is taking a map of the Earth and carving it so that it is a flat 2D surface. And again, trying to limit distortions of the map. You can see one of the flaws of this map is that Antarctica is portrayed as huge. Okay, you can see that all along the bottom of the map. But you can look on the map, you see the lines of latitude and longitude running left to right and top to bottom. How in the middle they're fairly close together, but as you get closer towards the poles, towards the top of the map, towards the bottom of the map, they're going to get longer and things will be more distorted. Now, map making can be quite complicated. Back in the early 17 and 1800s and prior to that, you had to physically send someone out and they had to record everything. We didn't have great records of heights or depths, valleys, and canyons because we didn't know, and they're not taking the tools out to measure every inch of these landmarks, these features. Nowadays, map making is a little bit easier. Okay, surveyors measure and observe, they record what they see. If you live in a city or suburb, you may have seen construction workers on the side of the road with this device. Of course, they're trying to see and get a picture of the ground so they can record angles, slopes, measure, and they can plan accordingly. Most of it's done by remote sensing. Okay, data is collected by their on the ground or via aerial support. And that would look like maybe flying a drone over the region or using a satellite to project and record that data. Now, Landsat, these are, of course, a series of satellites. They cover the Earth very quickly, constantly updating. If you go to Google Maps and you see that the infrastructure is changing, things are changing, that's caught on a Landsat. However, we also have another type of satellite, right? The geostationary operational environment satellite. These are, of course, to detect weather, and we use this to detect storms and try and prepare for the future the best we can. Now, all of this stuff, for many of us, we're not going to see satellites physically in the air unless you get to see Starlink fly over your city fairly often. What does this have to do with me, right? Most of us don't have maps in the dashboard of our car or our parents' car. Most of the information we're getting now is GPS, Global Position System. Okay, this was originally designed during the Cold War so that troops could know their location relative to each other. They could navigate terrain and they would know where each other's locations were. this geographic information system, it has lots of uses. It's not just how far away my fellow soldier is from me. It's not how far away is the store, how far away is HEB from me. The postal system, right? Truck drivers use this. The postal system plans their data into a GIS system, and it tells them this is the most efficient route to go to deliver all the mail that they need to do, right? That's how post routes are developed. Now, these types of maps, they're of course general reference maps, sometimes called topographical maps. These are showing the land-made features, elevation, height, depth, width. Thematic maps, very often showing information like climate, population, and navigational map. Sailors, pilots use these. They're using this to help navigate the stars and the ocean or the sky. They are using it to navigate. We as a consumer think we use a navigational map, which it's kind of a mix of thematic and navigation because your GPS has to take in a bunch of information. It has to say, here's where the city is, here's where most of the congestion and the traffic is, that's thematic, and we have to blend that to where is the infrastructure that we can travel, right? The navigation aspect. So it's kind of a blend of both thematic and navigational maps. That wraps up our lesson for this video. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Our next unit on ecosystems, seasons, weather, and climate is just a click away, and I hope to see you there.